What if this war doesn't stay in the Middle East? What if the conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran becomes the spark that drags the entire world into chaos? Because right now, behind the explosions and headlines, something much bigger is happening. Russia is watching, China is calculating, oil markets are shaking, and nuclear tensions are quietly rising. Today, we'll break down the real question. Is this still a regional war, or the start of something global? The 2026 war between the US-Israel alliance and Iran has already spread beyond its borders. We're seeing missile exchanges across multiple countries, attacks near critical shipping lanes, and growing instability across the whole region. This isn't just Israel versus Iran anymore. It's becoming a multi-front crisis stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean. And history tells us that when conflicts affect global trade routes, they don't stay contained. Let's talk about the real pressure point. Oil. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important choke points on Earth, handles about 20% of the global oil supply. Now, imagine that route is under threat or closed. We're already seeing spikes in oil prices, shipping disruptions, and fears of global inflation. Even recent market reactions show extreme volatility, with prices swinging rapidly depending on war developments. And here's the big picture. This isn't just about fuel. It's about food prices, manufacturing costs, and entire economies. When oil moves, the world moves. Now, China enters the scene, not with tanks, but with strategy. China relies heavily on Middle Eastern oil, so this war hits them hard. But instead of getting directly involved, Beijing is pushing diplomacy, indirectly supporting Iran, and preparing for a long-term shift away from oil. China has even explored bypassing the dollar in oil trade, hinting at a future petro-yuan system. And here's the twist. While the West struggles with energy shocks, China could benefit in the long run by speeding up its transition to alternative energy. Russia's role is even more dangerous because it's hidden. Moscow hasn't sent troops, but it has shared intelligence with Iran, provided satellite data, and supported military logistics. All without directly entering the war. Why? Because Russia doesn't want a direct confrontation with NATO, but it does want to weaken US influence, stretch Western resources, and reshape global power. This is what modern warfare looks like. Not direct confrontation, but strategic interference. Now let's talk about NATO. This war is testing the alliance in ways we haven't seen in years. Because if the conflict spreads, US forces are already involved, European nations could be drawn in, and NATO territory could be indirectly threatened. We're already seeing signs of spill over into nearby regions. The question becomes, at what point does NATO fully intervene? Because once that happens, this stops being a regional war and starts looking like a global one. Now we come to the most dangerous part of this conversation: nuclear escalation. Nobody wants it, but the risk is real. Here's why. Iran's nuclear infrastructure is directly under attack. Russia is a nuclear power indirectly supporting Iran, and both the United States and Israel maintain nuclear capabilities. Even global leaders have warned that attacks like these could trigger a wider conflict involving major powers. And there's another layer. If Iran feels cornered, it could escalate asymmetrically: cyber attacks, proxy wars, or worse, the unthinkable, Because in modern warfare, you don't always see the escalation coming until it's too late. Step back for a second. What are we really witnessing? This war is exposing something deeper: the fragility of global energy systems, China's rise as a strategic alternative, and Russia's willingness to challenge the West indirectly. This isn't just a war, it's a stress test for the global order. And depending on how it ends, we could see a shift away from US dominance, new alliances forming, and a completely different world balance. So here's the real question. Is this just another Middle East war, or the start of a global turning point? Because history doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it begins quietly with a conflict the world underestimates, until suddenly everything changes.